Hi, and welcome to this episode of Let's Talk. This is a show where I try to introduce you to some of the very interesting people who live in East Hampton. My guest today is Job Potter. Most of you will probably know Job either as a former town councilman or as a musician. He does music all over town. Anyway, we're going to get to know him a little bit more as we talk to him. So welcome, Job. Thank you so much for coming
I'm
and
excited to do this. Thank you.
joining us today. I'm going to start with the very first picture because I have all my guests bring pictures, and this is a little bit scandalous, but
Well, I questioned whether the first picture should be a nude.
well, it's very tastefully done.
So this picture was taken by Hans Namuth, who was a photographer that actually did a lot of work with Jackson Pollock in the early 50s. And I don't have a lot of pictures of my parents together because they broke up when I was 7. So this is my dad, Jeffrey, and my mother, Penny, in the background, and that's me at 2 years old, maybe,
Yeah, too.
at Indian Wells, which was still one of my favorite places. Yeah.
I actually knew your father. I have met him, more than once. Very distinguished older gentleman when I knew him.
he
But
was.
yeah, he's a very nice person. I did not know your mother, but I did know your dad.
And we were not East Hampton people.
So where were
They
you from?
came from New York, from the city, and they came out in 1949 and bought Stony Hill Farm in Amagansett. And then we lived there year-round until I was 7, and then my mom took my 2 sisters and I back to New York. But we kept the farm, and then I was here, every weekend, every summer.
Okay.
And came back in 1978 to live year-round and stayed. I always wanted to be here.
And do you still live on Stony
Yeah,
Hill?
live in Amagansett.
how
I have the
nice.
last little piece of the farm.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you grew up in New York, you went to school in New York?
I went to Amagansett, well, I went to Sacred Heart of Mary in Sag Harbor, and then first, second grade Amagansett, and then the Dalton School in the city, and then I went away to 5 years of boys' boarding schools.
Oh, how was that?
I didn't care for that part of it at the time, but looking back, it was probably a good thing.
Good experience.
Yeah, and then I went to Wesleyan University in Connecticut, and finally Connecticut College after dropping out, and I majored in botany, and so I became kind of very interested in the environment.
Okay. I have another childhood.
Yes, so
Picture of
so
you.
this is my sister Gail.
Oh, that's
actually.
you.
Yeah,
It's not
my-
you.
Yep.
I thought it was you. Okay.
Yeah,
It's hard to
and
tell in a snowsuit,
Yeah, but it's so I have 2 sisters, Mano and Gail, and that's the old stable at Stony Hill Farm,
Oh, okay.
which was a very high-end at the time, before we had a dairy barn owned by the Hamlin family who started the farm. And that barn unfortunately burned down in the early 60s. But a lot of people our age in town came to the riding school here in Rhode. And, there many of them say, oh, I remember what a happy scene that was there at the barn with all the kids.
Yeah. So tell me, for those who might not have grown up here, where was Stony Hill Farm?
Okay, so if you, Amagansett Main Street, if you go due north for about a mile, you'll come to Town Lane and Stony Hill Road, and the farm is on that corner there.
Yeah. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah, beautiful
Beautiful
land
location.
back there, beech forest. I don't know how the beech trees are gonna do, but
Yeah.
beautiful part of the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, how about this picture right here?
So now we're jumping ahead 50 years. And so I wanted to try to get the important people in my life in the pictures. So on the left is my son Ben, who's in his early 30s, living in Los Angeles, working as a videographer.
Okay.
My sister Manon, or Madeline, and then in the back, her partner, Maggie Dunn. The Dunn family has
Oh,
been,
sure, I know
the
Maggie.
Dunns.
Sure.
Yeah. My wife, ex-wife now, mother of my kids, Janet Jennings. My daughter, Carrie, down below, who's living in Brooklyn and just had her first child. I have a grandson.
Oh,
As
exciting.
of February. Then me, and then on the right, Priscilla Bowden, who was my father's wife and my stepmother for many years.
Okay.
Here in East Hampton.
Uh-huh.
And Priscilla lived on 114. Both she and Janet were very good painters, artists.
Okay.
And this was probably Christmas or, dinner.
Family get together of some kind, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a nice picture because it's nice with all your, it's like a headshot, but with all those people in it.
Exactly. When picking 10 pictures is hard. And I wanted to be sure that at least the most important people
Sure.
got in one
Yeah,
way or another.
absolutely.
Yeah.
This looks like important people too, though.
Okay, so one of the really cool things is my son Ben got to be 10 or 12. He had a great group of friends, still friends here in East Hampton, and they all loved to surf. So until Ben got to be 16 and got a driver's license, I drove these boys all over Montauk and Amagansett. And so here we have, they're all East Hampton folks. Ty Crane on the left, Tommy Powell, Matt Kalbacher, Vinny Vigorita, and then my son Ben.
So when did you come back full-time?
78.
And that was after college?
That was
and-
after college and bumming around and came back, got very interested in boats, and I worked on a couple of charter sailboats and did 2 winters fishing on draggers out of Montauk.
Oh, wow.
Which was amazing experience.
That's hard work.
Yeah, I mean, I was a visitor in that world. I knew I wasn't going to do it forever, but I had tremendous respect for those people who go offshore,
Sure.
especially. You
What,
know,
and what were you
I
catching?
was mostly flounder, primarily, and cod because it was winter, and we'd go maybe 10 or 15 miles offshore. And I fished with Dave Edwards, who was the son of Dick Edwards, who was an amazing fisherman, and then with Eddie Hammer, who was excellent fisherman too. So, you know, these are 2-man boats. So there'd be the captain, and then I'd be on the back deck picking fish.
And then tell me about when you come into where were you docked in Montauk?
Yeah.
Did you sell them right at the dock? What did you?
Usually what we do is we would unload, the fish would be iced, and it would go into Pell's dock, I think it was, and then to Fulton Fish Market. And then, 2 or 3 weeks later, you'd get a little check, and it was little.
Yeah.
But I kind of missed the heyday when there was a lot of fish. By the time I came in, that was 1982 and 3, and things had dropped down quite a bit. I did get to fish some of the squid in the late spring when the factory ships would come in offshore. But from my standpoint, because they were day boats, if the weather was terrible, we didn't go. It wasn't the harder thing of going out and staying out for days, right, and dealing with what comes, which one of the boys in the picture, Tommy Powell, is doing that now.
Now, has the fishing improved? I mean, now that the whales are back and the bunker are back?
Ooh, I'd be the wrong person to ask because I'm really not involved now. What's amazing to me, so I couldn't really answer, but fish prices have gone through the roof. I mean, in the 80s, steak was more expensive than fish, right?
Sure.
And now fish is crazy. So I don't know. I don't really know the answer
Yeah.
to whether,
I thought about that this summer because we see the whales all the time now
Yeah,
because the
yeah,
bunker have
yeah.
come back and it's a nice bait fish, and I just wondered if that was improving.
but that may or may not translate for the
It may
commercial
not.
fishermen because rightly or wrongly, it's a very regulated
Right.
fishery,
Absolutely.
So like the striped bass are being caught like crazy by the rod and reel people, but the haul seiners have been
Right.
cut out,
Right. Which is exactly what they knew would happen. But
Yeah.
anyway, it is what it is, right? So, okay, so what were you doing then after fishing?
Well, so I worked as a real estate appraiser for a while with Cindy Marshall and Ernie Clark on Main Street in East Hampton. And I was always a bird watcher, and Sarah Davison, who was the head of the Nature Conservancy at that time, took me out and we hiked on Cedar Point, and the piping plovers and least terns were nesting on the beach there, and there were no restrictions. There were no fences whatsoever. Everything was open to 4-wheel drives. And so I got involved as a volunteer and cared about that. And then I ran twice for town trustee at a time when Democrats could not get on the trustees, except for Tom Lester, who was a Bayman. And I lost 2 elections. But I think with all of our pushing and working with Larry Penny, who passed away recently, who's an amazing guy, the trustees kind of came around and we began to do fencing and began to protect the birds, which has continued to this day. So I lost those 2 elections, but I think the Democrats like me and they put me on the planning board, which is not an appointed position, a real position. And I did that for 4 years, and then I ran for the town board and won. Did 4 years and then ran again and won again, and so I did 8 years.
Okay.
And the fortunate thing was the 2% transfer tax for protecting land just came in the first year of Kathy Lester's administration. And I had some experience with land and so forth, so she let me be the liaison to the town board for that program. And that was just I'd like to say it was a kid in a candy store, because we all of a sudden had $20 million a year. There was still a lot of farmland and woodland, a lot to buy, and we had the Peconic Land Trust and Nature Conservancy under contract at that time. We didn't do it in-house. And the town board was mixed, Republican, Democrat, everybody totally aboard with it, you know.
Oh, that
And it was
CPF money was a gift.
Yeah, and a great working relationship.
Yeah.
And I was with Pete Hammerly, Pat Manser, Len Bernard. I know I'm going to forget some people.
It's always dangerous to
But it's
listen.
dangerous, but it was Kathy, and then I did 2 years with Jay Schneiderman, and then 2 years as supervisor, and 2 years as Bill McGinty. And after 8 years, I felt, that was enough. But I went back later, we'll see a picture with Larry Cantwell there somewhere, and did another 4 years. So I did 17 years on town board and planning board.
Wow, that's
Service
great.
together, yeah.
Good for
yeah.
you.
I was lucky.
That's nice. Public service is great.
What you've done.
A little bit, yeah. Okay, so let's talk about this picture. This is your other life, right?
So the other life, as I finished with the politics, when I turned 60, I'd always been playing guitar at home and with friends and writing songs, and I said, if I don't get out and do this publicly, I'll never do it. And so this was a great band. This is probably 5 years ago. One of your guests, Steve Tukolsky, is in the middle with the hat, and these are almost all local people. Jeff Levitt on the left, Joe Haynes, wonderful Juilliard-trained fiddle and singer Jenny Zill, who lives in Connecticut, and Jerry Giliberti and me, and we're in the Talk House. The Talk House is amazing to me because they have incredible world-known bands come into this small bar, but they also support local musicians. So we were in no way in the caliber of those professional bands, but on a weeknight in the winter, a couple times a year, we could come in and play. And the guys were great there. The sound system was amazing.
Yeah, we've seen some amazing people there over the years.
It's really, people don't realize, it's quite an unusual thing that it still exists.
It's great. Yeah, it's a wonderful resource. And here, this looks like music also.
So this is, where are we at? Okay, so one thing I was very proud of, I started the Sunday afternoon jams at the Springs General Store on the porch. And I particularly want to mention Anthony Liberatore on the right, who's about to become a board member here. Walter Knoller in the middle, a wonderful guy, Glenn Fite, who has since passed away. And we would get a lot of people just come and play on Sunday afternoons, and that still exists now. The store closed, but it's at the Presbyterian Church in East Hampton on Sundays. And it's very democratic. You go around in a circle and everybody gets to play a song.
Nice.
And I just, I love doing that.
Yeah, that's nice. That's a nice
And still exists.
opportunity, for people to get together and do music. Now tell me about these guys.
All right, so I couldn't leave these guys out. So that's Belle and Star, and we're down at Turtle Cove in Montauk. I would guess Ben is in the water swimming at this, and I'm taking pictures. And Belle is the corgi on the right, who my half-brother who lives in Colorado had a litter, and Ben and I went out and brought him back. And then the black dog is Star, who was an adopted dog. And they were just great companions. They're both gone now. I don't have any pets at the moment.
Nothing
but
like dogs
we
running
love
on
them.
the beach,
Yeah,
right?
dogs and the kids,
Yeah,
it was a great thing.
a great combination.
Yeah.
Okay, now here's your time
All
on
right,
the
so-
town board.
So one of my favorite people, who's also been a guest of yours, Larry Cantwell, and I love this picture because he's saying something funny and I'm laughing and it's kind of relaxed. I tried in 2012 to get back onto the town board, and I lost. And this was during that campaign. But as I think of it as like an old quarterback who they bring him back to the pro team to see, But really, I lost to Kathy Burke Gonzalez, who deserved to win. She was the next generation coming up, and now is the town supervisor. And then Fred Overton, who had been town clerk forever and was very local guy. So, the fact that I lost was probably fair.
Well, you did a lot of time anyway.
I'd done enough,
You've
maybe.
done your time.
Yeah.
Anything that you wish you had gotten to do, especially with CPF, that you weren't able to do?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think there were any great properties that ended up being developed that we missed.
So far.
Well, so far. I mean, I'm saying we, meaning
Right.
in my day. But I mean, if they get that Wainscott Pond property,
Was
I
that the
was
best? I
so
mean,
happy to see precious, incredible
oh my
property.
gosh, that's my favorite spot in the whole,
Yeah.
I think, East Hampton Town.
Looking out from Wainscott
I
Chapel.
just love that spot.
And
All
I
the
think
way
we
to the
all thought,
ocean.
that we might never get that.
Mm.
No, I'm very proud of what happened, and to say it again, now the town board is all Democrats,
Mm-hmm.
and it used to be all Republicans, but during that period, it was a mixed board, and we worked together really
is
well.
nice,
Both
yeah.
parties, everybody saw that we were losing the town. Okay, so the answer to that really is probably affordable housing.
Yes.
The one thing that we could have been doing, I think, is we didn't have a funding source, but have bought land to do more affordable housing. And the town board's doing better with that now. But I think if we had, there was a great Whalebone Woods, there was a great period in the early 80s with Judith Hope and those guys. And then there was a stretch where no land was really being bought. And, it's a drop in the bucket
Yeah.
given the need. But
It is.
that would be one thing maybe we could have gone back and.
Yeah, I think the town
done
board
more.
has been trying real hard,
They have
but it's
lately,
just,
yeah.
it's,
You do what you can.
you do it, yeah, exactly. There's not much property left anymore. There are very few places to even,
Yeah.
get hold of, which is,
Yeah, well, we built too many big houses,
Mm-hmm.
I think, that require a lot of servicing,
right.
and over 30% of the town is preserved, which in one way or another, the land, which is great. I mean, that's good.
We have a lot of state property.
And yeah, I should say, going back before, even in the Perry Duryea days, a lot of that huge pieces of protected land out in Montauk
Right.
was done by earlier town boards.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is great. I mean, we're very lucky, but now we have to worry about
Where are people going to
people
live? How can
where
people
will
stay?
live, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Okay, let's take a look at this one.
So this is recent, this is fun. After I played with Steve Tukulski, I started a band with a wonderful guy named Steve Skolberg, who's on the left, who lives in Noyak. And this is Harbor Fest 2 or 3 years ago in Sag Harbor. And that's Carolyn Blackmar, who lives in Montauk, who's an amazing singer, who I saw yesterday on the road. She was biking from Montauk to East Hampton.
Wow.
In that wind, she's amazing.
Wow, she's lucky she didn't get blown off the road.
She's a very impressive person and great singer. Jeff Marshall in the back from Sag Harbor, who's bass player and percussionist, and then myself. And this is a smaller group, which was better for me, I think, now as a trio, and I can hear my own guitar. It's not
Right.
as loud. And
And where do you play? people
we've
see
been
you?
doing a lot of farmers markets, mostly summer, not so much at night.
In Springs Farmers Market or?
We did for a long time, yeah. And Montauk, we did for 2 or 3 years. And then we've done some nonprofits. Peconic Land Trust, St. Luke's in East Hampton has had us.
Nice.
So it's more spotty, and it's not the rock and roll path.
Right.
It's the age appropriate path for me. I'm 76.
Yes, well, we're all there now,
Yeah,
so.
we are, one way or another.
Okay, here's one more of
Yeah,
you
and so
with
this
your
is
guitar.
my passion now really is playing for children. And this was a summer camp at Project Most. It was at Neighborhood House at that time. And you can't really see, but I put out little percussion toys for the kids.
Oh, yes, I can see, yeah.
And then talk to them, and then they play, and I do songs, and we talk. And I've been doing it, I'm still doing it if anyone has any babies, 10:30 on Saturday mornings at the Amagansett Library.
Oh, nice.
And this is for 2 years old and under.
Uh-huh, nice.
And so they always obviously come with parents. And have been doing that 2 days a week at Amber Waves Farm, which I love that place in Amagansett. And we've been having 20 to 25 babies come for
Wow.
every class with their parents, or some case nannies,
And do
it's
they
just
dance and have a good time?
the babies crawl,
Right?
and the parents, I encourage them to do the shakers,
Uh-huh.
And it's just a joyous, loving situation.
Yeah, that's
Everybody loves the
great.
babies.
I love
And
that.
I love Amber Waves. It's a community farm founded by women, which is very unusual, and they do a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you say you play there, you mean at the place on the Montauk Highway?
Yes, I play outside. They put out rugs, and I sit just like this. And a terrific singer, Annie Davison, who's a friend,
Nice.
she often does it with me. It's a love fest.
Yeah, that's
and free.
nice.
It's all free.
Yeah. That's great. So tell me what you haven't done that you still want to do.
Oh, boy, I'm running out of things.
Well, that's kind of nice.
I mean, I have a writing project that I did like 200 pages on Charles Darwin and Brazil in the 1830s, and I never finished that. And I made 3 trips to Brazil. This is a long time ago. So it's one of those things that's hanging out there, and I feel like, well, maybe, I should get back to that.
That would have been a good COVID project.
I wish I'd thought of it. But, now a lot of it is stay healthy, exercise. I've started going to the Y and swimming, which is great. And I'm dealing with, I should say, everyone should get to the eye doctor every year because I'm dealing with glaucoma now, and I've had to stop driving. So I think my concerns are more just staying healthy, being active, and I love my kids. They're both happy and doing well in life, and so I try to see them.
Do they come out here very often?
Well, Ben's in LA, so he comes when he can, maybe a couple times a year, and then I go out there a couple times. And Carrie lives in Brooklyn, but they have a baby, and she's finding getting out here on the weekend with the traffic is really hard.
Yeah, the traffic.
It's not so much fun,
Yeah.
So
one thing I wish we had all tried to work on harder years ago was the traffic. I feel like, some kind of public transportation system would have been wonderful to get some of the traffic off the roads. Specific intersections that could be worked on around town, and some are now. I mean, I know they're working, putting the roundabout in at the end of Stephen Hand's Path, not Stephen Hand's Path, on Stephen Hand's Path and Long Lane, yeah. I just, that frustrates me a little because I think, 20 years ago, we should have been looking at some of these places, but.
Well, the problem was when they wanted to build the Long Island Expressway or whatever through town, I think it would have been a disaster. It would have brought more and more people, and it would have gone right through where I live.
Right.
And
me too.
Yeah, but so that wasn't the answer. But mass transit, it's not bad. I mean, because I'm not driving since September, I'm learning. The Suffolk County bus system is pretty good. It's an on-demand system. And sometimes I walk from the farm down to Amagansett and jump on the train to East Hampton, back and forth. It's 75 cents.
Yeah. I feel like if there was a good system in the town, from hamlet to hamlet, to the beaches, to the shopping areas, that people would know at 1 or 10 and 12 and
schedule,
whatever, I could go to this spot in Springs and pick up a bus.
Right, it would almost have to be run by the town.
Yes, it would have to be run, but there are grants for that kind of thing, I think it could be.
It could be all electric.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, the Suffolk County bus, which is great, doesn't cover Wainscott. So I just Ubered from my house to get here. And Uber's great, but it's expensive.
Yeah.
So, but,
Well,
maybe
maybe someday.
Yeah, I mean, I've been so lucky. I've lived in this town. It's been I love it,
Yeah, it's a great place.
and the people and, so.
Yeah. Okay, well, at the end of every interview, I always ask the same question. So if you've watched any of you heard me ask, James Lipton used to always ask this on his show, Inside the Actors Studio. I used to love to watch that. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you get to the pearly gates?
I think he checked my ID twice before he let me in.
Just to make sure.
Just to make sure. I'm not sure I deserve it.
I don't think any of us do.
Right.
But let's hope.
Let's hope.
Let's hope. Well, thank you so much for being with me today. I really appreciate it. I love hearing your life story and how you ended up in East Hampton. And As I said, I've known your dad, so I was even more interesting for me to get to know you a little bit. And of course, I've watched you from afar on, town board meetings over the years and seen you in that work. So I appreciate your time. And I also want to thank my sponsor, Whalen and Filer Attorneys and Emma Gansett for sponsoring the show. And I also want to thank the great staff here at LTV. We're so grateful that they make community access television available to us here in East Hampton. So thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in, and please watch another episode of Let's Talk.
Thank you.